everyone has their own rock bottom. May be worse than yours, may not be as worse as yours, but it's all how you dig yourself out.
Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to another episode of 911 Delta Tethered for Life podcast. As usual, this episode may not be suitable for all listeners due to language and content, so listen with care and stay safe out there.
Hey y'all, grab those headsets. It's time for another episode of 911 Delta Tethered for Life podcast. We're your crazy host, Quesadilla.
And Annabug. Welcome, guys. Tonight we have Doug Hogate Jr. with us from New Jersey. He's a dispatcher and also the producer of, co-host, whatever, of the Sibling Things podcast that Casey and I were on a couple weeks ago now. So, Doug, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, thank you guys again for having me. It was great to have you on our show. I know it was a lot of fun. So
it was.
Giving me the opportunity to come on your guys' show. So I'm a dispatcher or PST, public safety telecommunicator, here in South Jersey, Salem County. Let's see. The way I like to put it is, in the last 16 years, I have 11 and a half years service. So there was a little bit of a break in there, but it's what I do. It's what I love, and doing it ever since. So, and as you said, yes, I have a podcast with my younger brother. I call him my big little brother because he's a lot bigger than me, and and my younger sister, and it's called Sibling Things, and we just did our 13th episode. In fact, it was this past Friday night, and we named it Friday the 13th, even though it wasn't Friday the 13th.
That actually confused me when I saw it, because I'm like, is it? No.
I know a lot of people saw it and was like, it wasn't Friday the 13th. I said, but it was.
That's the whole point.
So, right. But yeah, I mean, it's a show where we just kind of get on there. I mean, we've always been close. We've always had a great relationship. We lost our mother in July, and I have podcasting experience as well as my sister, and my brother, he's kind of done the music thing, so we were just kind of like, why don't we do a podcast together? And it just set it up, have a whole studio in my brother's room, and we love it. So we been doing it ever since January.
Yep. It was a lot of fun when we were on a couple weeks ago.
It was unfortunately Jenna wasn't there.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. We didn't get to experience the little sister.
We did.
But, but that's also the motto of our show, too, is it's all Jenna's fault. Because, again, she's the little sister. So we got to blame her for everything, even as adults.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It works.
Valid. I always thought it was the oldest, though. I always got blamed for everything in my family. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, of course, I also joke and tell them all the time. I was like, I don't know why our mother and father decided to just go past me. I mean, I'm not
right.
I'm confident.
Well, yeah. And my husband's the youngest, and he always says, they had to keep going until they got to perfection. So
that's what Jenna says. Right. So it must be a youngest thing.
It is. See.
Yeah.
So you've been dispatching for 16 years or 11 and a half. That's what your retirement paperwork says, right? But
yes.
But you've been. It's funny because I think Casey and I, hasn't it been 16 years too? Because we started.
It was 16 years. Yeah.
Doesn't even seem like that, right?
Each.
No.
Yeah, 16 each. So,
not at all. What is your center there in New Jersey like? Like, set the stage for us. If we walked in the door, what would it look like?
So we share a building with our emergency management. As that's primarily the department, and then we work through the sheriff's office. So we're divided up in between fire and EMS dispatch as well as police dispatch. We dispatch for all the municipalities in Salem County, police-wise, and then, of course, all the fire and EMS throughout the county. The way we have it set up is on the fire side, you have two uh, PSTs that work fire and EMS dispatch, and they also handle the 911 calls that come through. And on the police side, there are four PSTs that manage, see, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 agencies. So four of us just go through 7 municipalities, and some are busier than others. But we all each have a post. It's divided up. Basically, they're like cubicles. But we all obviously back each other up, and each post backs up the other. And my shift, we work very well together, and it's kind of how it is. And it can be difficult sometimes, especially on the fire and EMS side, because we're majority cross trained, and with only 2 people, sometimes if things are hitting the fan, you got to be able to multitask. I mean, that's just something that comes with the job.
Yes, definitely know about that.
I just can't imagine the whole multi-jurisdictional thing. Like, are they at least similar in the way they do things?
For the most part, yes. Each you have, there are departments who kind of are more, or they're structured certain ways than the others, but for the most part, on how they do things, it's all pretty much the same. I mean, we our seating arrangement, it changes every time we go in. We flip flop between the 2 rooms for the most part. And yeah, I mean, you have some agencies where sometimes you might not hear from them but once or twice. So in those cases, you might share that post with another police agency. It's a little bit busier. And then there are some that are very busy that you just are responsible for that one. So yeah, so it just depends on the town. They're very calm for the most part, but again, we all work together and we work great. So that's one of the advantages of doing all those departments with just minimal staff.
Interesting. Yeah, I know there's a lot of places that are like that, but it just seems like, to me, I'm like, man, that would be confusing, especially if you aren't, like, you're not on said county's radio exclusively, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm like, man, I would get confused. But
I mean, it's pretty divided up, or it's divided up pretty well. For example, one agency that shares with the other, they're on 2 different channels. However, you're backing up the one channel of the other post. So, I mean, it can be, I guess, if you're sitting and you're not used to it, but once you do it for so long, you kind of listen for it, because there is one particular channel that's shared by 2 departments, the sheriff's department as well as majority of the prosecutor's office. And then one agency just does one channel. So again, in time, as you're doing it, you kind of think of who you're listening to, and just becomes second nature. I mean, anything with this line of work, you just got to adapt and overcome.
So, what made you decide to begin a career in public safety?
Well, my father, he's retired now, but he was a police sergeant for this Salem City Police here in Salem County, and all my life he's obviously been a police officer, and he was also volunteer fire department. And when I turned 16, it was kind of suggested to me by him, as, oh, you should try the fire department, volunteer. And I did, and I loved it to the point that I turned into what we call, and we've discussed, as a whacker.
That's right.
Yeah.
Which the whacker term meaning, oh, everything is fire department. It's hanging out the firehouse. You're in basically 24/7 when you can, putting every light that you can on your vehicle, and it's just your entire life. So being in that and being volunteer with that, as well as volunteering with the ambulance. I went through fire school. I went through EMT when I was younger. And when a position opened up at the county dispatch, I thought, oh, that seems like a piece of cake. Let me give that a try. And yeah, it was definitely shocking to know what dispatchers or PSTs go through. It's more than just answering the phone and collecting information. But again, when I got started, I fell in love with that, and here I am.
That's cool. And when your dad retired, then you got to do his final call, right?
I did. That was something really cool. Um, my I spoke to my higher up, and I mentioned how he was going to be finishing up at 6 p.m., and that was it. And his badge number was 612. So, me being a PST for that agency, also, when my sister met him in the back to video when he pulled the car in for the last time behind the station, she wanted to record him doing it, knowing that I was at the dispatch center waiting for him to do that. So he called in and he said, counting from 612, I'll be code 3 for the final time. And they allowed me to queue up every operating radio in Salem County, and I gave a nice about just under a minute message announcing his retirement. And I ended it with 612. It's your code 3 for the final time. Said the time, and that was it. Now my brother was with me when he videoed me doing it on my end, so we posted it online just to kind of show, like, hey, check out what we did. Well, it went viral. It was
awesome.
amazing how many people caught wind to it. We were interviewed by our local CBS News. We appeared on Fox News, the national Fox News. Again, shared all over online social media. In fact, I had a memory someone shared actually today on Facebook that I didn't realize until now, that Tyrese, the famous Tyrese from Fast and Furious, actually shared the video.
Wow, that's cool.
So
That is cool.
the stretch that it went, it was definitely nice. And I think with the icing on the cake with that was the Philadelphia Police Chiefs Association, I believe it was. One of the things my dad said in one of the news interviews for CBS was they asked him what he's going to do now that he's retired. And he said that he had yet to go see a Phillies game at Citizens Bank Park, which at the time it had been years they had playing there. Well, they seen that the Philadelphia Police Chiefs Association saw that and sent us 10 tickets to go to a Phillies game, and he got to change third base.
That is cool.
So it was definitely it was great. It was a great thing for him. I mean, he's obviously a great father and raised us tremendously, and it was definitely well deserving with everything that he's done throughout his life. So I was happy to see him get that recognition, and it was also, I feel, kind of a symbol to all people who serve, whether it is police, fire, EMS, PST dispatching. It's getting that recognition because all the years you spend dealing with, of course, helping people, number one, that's the most important thing, but also at times dealing with the public. I mean, it's a lot. It takes a lot of strain on someone, and to do it for 30 years or however long, to get the recognition, it's well deserved, especially when you can make it all the way to retirement.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, definitely a cool experience.
Even though all of those positions deserve the praise or whatnot, we're like the last people that think we deserve it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
You do. It really is. I mean, especially when you go places and if you have your uniform on, or you go somewhere and they want to offer you a discount for something or this and that. I mean, you're not really supposed to anyway, because we get paid to what we do. But
right.
that's not why we do it. I mean, it's nice to be recognized for that, but you're right. We don't sit there and say, well, this is why we do it. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
part of our life.
Right.
I mean, anything that anyone does, as long as you take pride in what you do, whether you're uh, police, fire, EMS dispatching, or you're changing roofs or cutting grass, it doesn't matter. As long as you take pride and know you work hard and you're working hard to do what it is you're doing, then it's just something to be proud of. And one thing with us is I'm very proud of what I do and the others do in this. And again, we're just a voice behind the phone. So,
Yep.
so that's where we're at.
All right. Now, you have shared quite a bit of memorable things, but I'm going to ask anyways. Is there another memorable, good or bad, experience, call, incident from your career that's had a significant impact on you?
So yeah, so I one thing it's funny I joke about. I can say that I've dealt and handled almost any call you could possibly think of. I even had a small aircraft down once. It wasn't bad, but it's just the fact that you don't get many planes down in this area. But
Mm-hmm.
the one call I've never had was I've never delivered a baby over the phone. I have yet to have my stork. One day maybe. But with the different calls that I've had and I've handled, um obviously I've been the last voice I know for some who have passed on the phone. And I've helped quite a few people that, again, I'm proud of. One in particular, I have to say, and this was kind of a team effort. The shift I was on at the time, we had got an open 911 line, and anybody in this business knows how they can be. You get an open 911 line, someone butt dials, you want to listen, you want to make sure everything's okay. Well, this one in particular time, I answered the phone and I could hear some kind of a commotion but talking. And one thing that I like to do is I like to listen for a second, even if I think it is a butt dial.
Mm-hmm.
And I just so were able to pick up the fact that someone was being home invaded. And the people who dialed 911 were just able to dial 911 fast enough to kind of hide the phone and keep it. And so I recognized that right away. So with the shift that I was on, right away we went into action. We do have the technology to be able to right away when someone dials 911 to see where a phone may be located at the time, because we have better technology now, but at the time it was not 100% accurate. So we're able to utilize the technology of contacting the phone company to get a better location, tracking the phone. And in working together and acting fast, we got to the point where we could get an address, we could send police. They were able to arrive and surround the home just in time for the home invaders to walk out with the people that lived there, because they were forcing them to drive them somewhere. So God knows what would have happened if they did not
Right.
dial 911. And again, we were able to get them and stop them right before they could leave. And that's one that always sticks out, because it's a prime example of being able to act fast, what we do behind the scenes and what we do with a team effort, because it wasn't just me that worked to get that result. But
Right.
but that's definitely one of many. I mean, I probably could go on for hours and hours of all the different calls, as I know you guys could. But that's one that it's pretty neat that had a good result. And as far as I know, they were convicted, and that was that.
Yep, that's great. And it's funny how when you're just listening and when you're in the business and get those ears and those gut feelings or whatever you want to call them, um, you just know like
Right.
something's not right, or oh, it's just a butt dial, but you just know. And that's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. Because and that's not even, and that is used so much in particular. Now, of course, people I don't want people to sit there and think, oh, if you dial 911, they're going to find out where you are. I mean, it's not like that all the time, because trust me,
Yeah.
there have been some 911 open lines of people doing things that
Indeed.
you want to make sure everything and what you hear is okay. And of course, we always call a phone back,
Yeah.
just to verify. But again, there was even another one, same situation. A guy was able to dial, but he had fallen out of a tree stand
Whoa.
from hunting. He was way into the woods, and he was able to dial, but he couldn't speak. And again, using the technology, using the resources, and acting fast, we were able to find out where he was and get him help. So yeah, it's, while yes, we can go all day of the things that, I don't want to say annoy us, because that's just part of the job, but the things that make us go, oh,
Yeah.
there are those moments where most of the time when you're helping someone, I mean, even if it's something as simple as how many times you get the ones of that maybe you wouldn't quite think of, why are they calling for an ambulance or whatnot, but to them, they're dealing with the worst thing they've ever dealt with. Maybe it's not something that you've had to deal with, but it's, even if it's something simple as I stubbed my toe and I need an ambulance. Guess what? If you can send them an ambulance, whatever, you move on to the next.
Yep.
That's right.
And then of course, again, as you have the ones where you're given the CPR instruction, and it's so much up and down that yeah. I mean, it's a very this line of work is, again, it's always just like this with a few eye rolls in between, and I guess maybe that's why I say I love it so much.
Right.
Yes.
Do you guys use EMD, EFD?
We use EMD.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Just speaking of stub toe, we had recently, the first agency I worked at used ProQA.
Okay.
And then when I went to the other agency, we did not. We EMD'd, but we had the card sets, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so then we got ProQA. And I mistakenly asked somebody, one of those ending lines is, would you like me to stay on the phone with you or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just reading, and she was like, yes. And I'm like,
damn it.
And so now I'm like praying for 911 to start blowing up so I can have an excuse to hang up on her, because now I'm stuck on the phone and I know they're not going lights and sirens, right? They're meandering the gut box down the road. Like, are you kidding me right now? I'm like, holy crap. I was stuck on the phone with her.
Well, see, and you're right. I mean, that's one thing that we're required to ask is like, okay, do you want me to stay on the line with you?
Right.
And of course, in cases where it's serious, I won't even ask. I'll just
stay
on the line.
Exactly.
But when it's something like, my arm's been hurting me for the last 2 weeks, I need an ambulance. Okay, do you want me to stay on the phone with you? Well, yeah.
Right.
Kind of like, what do you want to talk about?
Right. All right. So what are we going to talk about here?
Yeah,
so
right.
You flip your dispatcher hat on to, like, your whatever other hat we wear to try to figure out, now what the fuck are we going to talk about for the next,
right. I mean,
20
it's like,
minutes or
tell me, what do you want to do? Tell me your hopes and dreams,
Whatever,
Yeah.
Let's play a little who would you do, or some shit to waste time. I don't know.
Boy, that would raise a lot of alerts,
wouldn't it?
So now that we're on the phone here,
right?
Who would you do?
Right, and it's a recorded line. Let's just.
Now, the next time I have to sit on the phone with somebody, I'm going to think about this and try
my
best not to forget.
You're going to be like, oh,
man,
why did I do this to myself?
Be like, I'm required to ask this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could just play it by yourself inside your brain, like, well, this one or this one. Damn those girls.
I got to ask you, have you ever had a call where something is going on so bad and you're trying to maintain your professionalism, but it is just making you laugh.
Oh yes,
So,
more than one time.
uh,
Yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
there's one in particular that I had that it was so bad. I actually had to tell the person, please hang on a second and have someone else take the call. And now it was bad because I'm apologizing like crazy, but I could not.
You couldn't keep it together. Yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
was bad, and I'm really good at keeping my composure. This one in particular, it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess basically to say, because I don't mean it as a disrespect. So anybody watch it, please don't think I'm being disrespectful at all, because I'm really not. It was a stutterer. Now, it was not the fact that the person was stuttering. So let me please clarify. It was when I asked for
Sure.
the phone number. When I asked for the phone number, started to say one, and said it 5 times, and I write it on the paper 5 times before realizing, and I lost it. And again, I mean, no disrespect to anyone who stutters. It wasn't the fact that they were stuttering. It's the fact more of me that I'm writing the one that many
Right.
times.
You keep writing it, right? You're
Yes,
like,
I,
oh,
I lost it. And it's like, oh my gosh, I'm like, I can't believe it was so yeah. I mean, it's crazy because you guess you got to have that dark humor,
Mhm.
you know, in this. I mean, one thing we like to say, and again, it's not being sick or twisted, but when there is someone, it's a cardiac arrest or something, be like, oh well, I killed someone today.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, and it's not meaning that bad, but it's just that's how we cope with what's going on.
Or you
Right.
immediately start singing "Staying Alive," or
Right. When
another,
somebody's doing CPR, they're
Yeah,
like in the
right.
background.
another one bites the dust, or and just get up and
Depends
start
on the
boof,
day.
boof,
I
Right.
boof.
mean, you got to do what you got to do, because
Yeah.
I mean, all the death that we've dealt with, all the tragedy, it's kind of like, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
we're sick. We're sick.
Oh yeah.
We're the ones you call for help when you have an
Right.
emergency.
Scarily enough.
So
You might
just
think twice.
think of
Yeah.
that the next time your ass wants to call for your stubbed toe.
Yeah,
Oh,
right.
right. I had an old guy one time that was similar. He was just hard of hearing, and he was one of those called 911 instead of 411,
Uh,
and he he wanted a number, for something, and I'm trying, because I realize the situation, and I'm trying to give him the number,
mm-hmm.
and but I would say like two numbers. Or like I think I started, it was, like 972 and he's like 927. No, 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 no. 972. 979. No, no. And this went on and the same thing. I lost it and I had
Yeah.
to at the time the center that I worked in, it was two people. It was
Mm-hmm.
only two, it was a small center. I'm like, I had to get my partner. I'm like, you got it. You got to take this. I'm done. I can't. I'm losing it because every time, and he is like, oh, that was very funny.
You're right. It's like, I mean, we're only human. You know?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, sometimes let me just, have you ever accidentally asked someone, so you know how in EMD that you do have in the cards for abdominal pains, things like that, where you ask them, if it's a female, is there a chance you could be pregnant or she could be pregnant?
Right.
You ever accidentally ask someone that when they say they're 86 years old?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Or they're on that like age cusp and you're not sure.
Yes.
I mean, it is 2024.
I mean, yeah, that's true. That
Right.
You
that
know,
Right. And how
yeah.
many times have you hung up the phone with a deputy or a firefighter, paramedic, whatever, and said, "Love you too."
No, no, but
You've
I
never
was
done
work.
that?
I was working with someone just recently, a couple of weeks ago, and she's the sweetest lady in the world. And I was working overtime on her shift, actually, and I'm sitting in one police post. She's sitting in one next, and she's on the phone, and I hear her talking. But suddenly I hear her say, "Okay, love you, bye."
Yeah.
And I stop and I turn. I'm like, "Did you just tell them I love you?" And she goes, "Did I? I don't know." And we played it back. Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I mean, it could be worse, you know.
It's true. It's
Spread
true.
the love, girl. Spread the
or
love.
or after working a long time, answering your personal phone sometimes, 911. Where's
Yes.
your emergency or police dispatch?
Yes,
Oh,
I
yeah.
have done that.
I have
They're
done
like,
that.
what? Of course, I
What?
like to mess. I like to mess with those spam calls sometimes too. So,
Oh, yeah.
Although they usually don't give a fuck.
oh, listen, they'll call the PSAP numbers.
Oh, yeah.
That's so,
Oh, yeah. Dial
They're
right in.
So
Yep,
rude.
to the trunk line, and you're like, and they don't even hear you, and you're
No,
like, I just said it was 911, dude. Do you have an emergency?
yeah, because it always starts with the bloop, hello,
Mhm.
and you're like, yeah, where's your emergency? And then you hear the recording, like you said, can you
Right.
hear me? I'd be like, well, obviously you can't hear me because I just said it was 911.
Right.
So
Yep.
yeah, it's just crazy how they do. They get all these private PSAP numbers, and they're just
Mhm.
dialing away wanting to sell you Medicare or extended warranty.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh. Okay, so with all that craziness that goes on in this world, and the emotional roller coaster from
Yeah.
CPR to love you bye, how do you manage the stress and maintain resilience?
Well, one thing that I'm really big on in this is mental health. I I had a moment a few years back where between personal issues at home as well as being at work where it was affecting my job, which resulted in me having to take a break from there for a couple of years. But again, since I've returned and those issues, those things that I went through, I mean, I look at it now as obviously being life lessons. And now the biggest thing that I have to say is after doing it so long, you really do become numb to it. But on the same token, you have to learn to be able to take any stress that you have outside of work, and separate it from what's going on inside. And because if not, it's going to burn you out quick. I mean, what is, let's say, what's the average now? Career expectancy is, I think, like 7 years. They say to be a PST. So, and it's definitely true when doing this. So I know my biggest thing is for myself. If first of all, if fortunately, knock on wood, I have not had any serious personal issues in a long time. Like my life is going so great now, and it definitely helps with the stress of the job. But in the event something like that happens, is recognizing it quick and getting the help that you need right away. I mean, even if it's going to talk, there's no shame in going and talking to someone. Therapy. A lot of people sometimes think, oh, well, if I seek out or say I'm having issues, it's going to ruin me. Well, no. If you come out and say, I need help, you'll be offered the help. There's so many things out there that can assist you with it. So my biggest thing is, if in the event something were to come up, is recognizing it right away, because I did not the first time, which it just snowballed into a much bigger issue. When if I would have just been like, hey, there's issues here, I need to fix it. I always say maybe the outcome would have been better, but on the same token, while seeing the person I was turning into those years ago versus now, I say that it benefited me, so to speak, because it helped me become mentally stronger, and also to be able to help others in saying, don't be ashamed of having problems. Everyone goes through things. It's how you build yourself back up. So it's ultimately recognizing it and seeking the help that you need right away before it gets worse.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is definitely true.
And
I think we're all pretty much guilty of that.
Right.
Yeah,
And
because
go ahead, I'm sorry.
until you get that, I think, unless for whatever reason you were blessed with, I don't know, somebody training you really well or whatever, you, until you get to that breaking point
Mm-hmm.
where you realize that your personal and work is not meshing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're crossing over crap. You don't Nobody teaches you how to deal with it.
Right.
I mean, that's something that we should do a better job of. We should teach people that, and how to have that resilience, because a lot of us find out the hard way, like you did.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it makes you better in the long run, but could we save people from going through that? And I know when we had Dr. Meredith on, she talked about, it's really interesting, like you said, with the dispatchers, the average life expectancy is like 6 to 7 years. And she was saying, and I might get the numbers a little bit wrong, but basically dispatchers it's a higher like failure rate right in the beginning, like in the first year, and at that 6 7 year mark. Whereas like firefighters, EMTs, and even police, it's sort of a more gradual descent in like the first couple of years. And then if they make it through those first couple of years, they're, more likely to be lifers or go 15 years.
Right.
Right. So obviously somebody is failing the dispatchers somewhere
Right.
along the way. Right.
And and I feel, and that's the thing, because right away, because I know I was guilty of it before I got hired. Yeah, when I got hired originally, I was 21 years old. And again, in my whacker mentality, I'm thinking, well, what cooler freaking way to be part of the fire service than actually dispatching, being one of the people that you respond. Oh, county, we're responding. So right away, my mentality was, oh, dispatchers sitting with their pajama pants on, with their feet up, answering the phone. Oh, this will be cake. And you get in there, and in the first week where you're just pretty much observing, I mean, I don't say first week because the first 2 weeks you're sitting in like a classroom setting. But after that, when you're down there and you're in the shit, and you're seeing that these aren't scenarios, these aren't recordings, these are actual people calling for whatever it is they're calling. And it's not just taking a call, writing down some notes and being like, okay, go. I mean, you're that help until physical help gets there. And when all you can use is your voice to help, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And you don't think about either the fact that one thing that I do, I assist with the training. And one of the biggest things that they have me do is go over EMD and giving scenario calls just to get the hang of going through the EMD questions, how to find it quickly. Um, we have a group currently. While they were doing their classroom training, I was with them for a couple of days, and right off the bat, I gave them one where someone I was pretending to be a mother, and oh, help me, my 4-year-old's not breathing, I don't feel a pulse, and saying, okay, walk me through how the EMD cards say to do CPR. So I let them go through it and then say, okay, ambulance has arrived. You hear that they've made contact. Disconnect the call. So, I've heard of one kid who was playing the part of the caller. He pretended to hang up. He's like, okay, I did good. I said, okay, well, wait a minute. 5 minutes goes by and you hear him come over the radio and say, be advised, code 100, meaning person passed. So that mother that you were just giving her instruction on her 4-year-old, you just hear that 4-year-old died. And they kind of like looked at first like, what kind of sick, twisted person are you to even think that? It's kind of like, that's what happens. That's what you have to be prepared for. Nobody wants to see somebody. God, I have kids. I couldn't even freaking imagine.
Right.
But when that happens, how does just knowing that it's fake make you feel? Thinking about you just took that call and found out, oh man, they didn't make it. And you don't think about that right off the bat when you get in. Like, yeah, okay, people are calling 911, they have an emergency. Well, think about when you're talking to that 90-year-old who's alone and he's saying he can't breathe, and suddenly you hear him take his last breath.
Yep.
I mean, that's the kind of thing that I feel when you want to get into it, you got to be exposed to and come to the reality of that. That's what it's about. This isn't like a customer service job where you're, someone's giving you their credit card number to pay a bill.
Right.
People could be dying, could be having stubbed toes, or they could want to commit suicide. I mean, these are the extremes that happen. So yeah, it's having that understanding that that's what can happen. And when you do that over and over and over again, are you mentally prepared? I don't think anyone's mentally prepared, but are you at least mentally prepared enough to recognize that if it's bothering you, let's figure out a way so it either doesn't bother you or maybe it's just not for you. Don't let it screw up your personal life, your entire life, because it's not for everybody. It's nothing to be ashamed of.
Right. And that's could be a huge liability as well, not only on yourself, but, the agency that you work for, just if you're in that denial and you end up really fucking shit up, that people don't think of the legality of it either. Like, do you want to be that dispatcher that's on Fox News? Do you want, because that's also reality.
Yes.
I mean.
Yep, being called to sit on the stand because you missed one question.
Yeah.
All it takes is one question. Even if missing that one question didn't really make what the outcome what it was, but you're suddenly sitting on a stand and you're playing back that call and you have a defense attorney saying, well, why didn't you ask that one question? You're right. All of a sudden you're losing everything. So you're right. Yeah, the liability is also a huge thing. So it's just taking all these things into account. When you stop and think about it, you sometimes think in your head, why the hell do I do this?
Right. Because it's a gamble, all the way around,
Right.
Pretty much.
But while there can be a lot of tragedy and a lot of terrible things, there's also a huge sense of pride in the help that you give. And I just think it balances itself out, and it's being able to recognize that. So yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
So you've pretty much hit on this next question too in a lot of ways, but any other key qualities or skills that you believe are essential for someone working in public safety? Or
patience, obviously.
Yes.
A lot of patience and multitasking. I mean, again, you're not talking on the phone with somebody and trying to figure out when they can pay their next bill and their form of payment. I mean, it's not that simple. Right. And again, you got to be willing to take a call and also hear somebody call you every name in the book because you're a no good MFer and everything that's going wrong with them is because of you.
When you're trying to help them, right?
When you're trying to help them, as much as you want to be on that phone and say, "Let me tell you, you can't do that."
Look, you fucking called me, buddy. Okay.
You bothered me. It is 12:05, and I just starting my lunch now. And
I was fine playing Who Would You Do until you called.
Right.
Exactly. But yeah, definitely having the patience and being able to multitask. Now, the different aspects of the job, like the multitasking, gaining your. Do you guys use that term radio ear?
Yes.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, being able to be on the phone, but then you got units that want to call out, especially some police officers, but they don't want to give you the second to listen. They think you're sitting there with a pen ready or something. It, it's something that does develop in time, but it's using the training, listening to the people who have experience in the job. One thing I always tell trainees when they come in, there are 2 words that are forbidden in that room. No, not the Q word, but I don't care if you've been out in the field as a firefighter, EMS, don't come in here and use the words I know. Because there are people that come in and be like, oh, I know. Do you?
Right. Do you?
Yeah. So yes, it's good that if you have that kind of background, use that, but don't use it to the point that all of a sudden you have it figured out. Use the training, continue to get your continued education with things. Things are always changing all the time, but again, it's wanting to get into it. Do your research. Don't watch shows like 911, and because how television is, those are writers in a room writing a script that have never even sat in a call center before. So do your research, talk to people, listen to your training, and as I said before, if it's not cut out for you after you do it, don't push it, because you're going to end up hurting yourself mentally and potentially hurting someone else. So just do your research and be prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that covers. What advice would you give to people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right, and it's not, and that kind of advice, it's not, when I say these things, it's not to steer people away, because
right.
it really is, it is really a great career when you can get things figured out for yourself and learn the job. There really is a lot of pride in the job. So it's not trying to steer anyone away from it who's considering it. It's just know that it's not your everyday job. That's why there is such a short turnaround for it. You got to be borderline functioning. Probably should be living in an insane asylum.
Yeah,
Want to do it, but we're functioning crazies.
Yeah.
We are.
Basically, right.
And if you're not fucked up when you start, you're gonna be fucked up by the time you quit.
Right.
Oh my! It's funny you say that. So today, as I had said, we have trainees right now, and my shift, there are 2. One's training on the fire side currently, and one's on the police side. Well, today I sat with the one that's on the police side, and she's a young girl, not even 21 yet.
Oh wow!
And I will say she's doing great. She's really getting it. And we were having a conversation, all of us, with her about how we're kind of saying that they're about a month and a half in on the OJT, and so he asked her, like, what do you think so far? And she says, well, I'll tell you, it's a lot more than I thought. Because same thing, thinking, coming in, answering phones and giving it out over the radio. Again, she's progressing well, but one of the things that I feel that all of them kind of are struggling on is that confidence in taking the calls, knowing what questions to ask, and talking on the radio. I mean, it is a big step, and we just try to explain it will come in time. As long as you're getting the procedures down, you're getting the information. Before you know it, that phone's going to ring and you're going to be like, hello.
Right.
But again, it's funny you say that, because one of the things that I also said was, give it a couple of years. If you're not screwed up in the head yet, it's going to make you.
Yeah.
So
right.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And also in reality, like, your life will definitely change.
Yeah.
I mean, you won't see things the same ever again. And I think that is probably goes for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you're not.
And I don't know if you guys or anybody listening. I don't know if they, so one thing that and my fiance tells me all the time. She says, when things are hitting the fan, you are calm, collected, and ready to take action. I mean, I've had my one nephew, one day we were eating dinner and he started choking. So right away I went, everybody's freaking out. I went into action, and he was okay. Um like when serious things happen, I'm calm, collected. Let's go. Let's take care of it. If I spill something, I'm like, oh, jeez. And one of the things is it's like, how can you, when something serious and bad is going on, remain so calm? But something simple happens. I'm not ready to like punch holes in the wall, but I just say,
Right.
oh, geez, I just spilled something.
Right.
And it's like, I guess because I'm used to dealing with the oh shit moments, I could deal with them better.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it definitely, you're right. Will change you as a person, but don't let it change you too much. Kind of have that wall up, but know how to break through sometimes.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Now, did you have a good calm week?
It actually was. I was on the police side these past 3 days, and it really, at least for the day shift, it was pretty good. Now I don't want to jinx myself, of course, with these upcoming night works, because again, the shift that we work, we have it to where every fourth week we have the 7 days off, and with that, the second week is our 6 day week. So it's 3 day works off one, and then 3 night works. So yeah,
Bless
didn't have to
you for
work
doing
during
that.
this full moon or this pink moon or turquoise or whatever moon it was. But for me, I don't need a moon to tell me that I'm crazy. So, uh,
Right.
but I will say I took off Sunday because going to the Dover NASCAR race. So
Oh,
I
that's
only have a
cool.
I only have a 2 day week coming up. So I haven't been to a NASCAR race in many years. I haven't watched in a while, but yeah, we're going.
Cool.
Awesome. Well, that'd be
So,
fun.
Okay, so we have a question for you. Last week we interviewed somebody from out west, and they said that they call tankers out there tenders because tankers are air support. And we've had this burning question. Nobody has answered it for us yet. Do you know where the term tender comes from?
that's a good question. I don't know. I really don't. It just one day. That's just like way back. Let's see. I started in 2007. Right when I first started, we were still calling motor vehicle crashes auto accidents,
Right.
and that changed to motor
Right.
vehicle crash. Dwellings were a house,
Right.
then they turn into dwellings. So yeah, the terminology has changed. Yeah, it used to be like, for example, when you have a tanker task force.
Right.
Now it's a tender task force.
That's
That's like
fucking
a
funny
30
though.
piece nugget, chicken nugget
That's
from
Yes, that's like going to McDonald's ordering
from the
100 nuggets.
wow.
And if we can just get some of these people, like officers, to learn the phonetic alphabet, the correct phonetic alphabet.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, ice cream, and
Kangaroo.
pneumonia.
Mm,
Yeah.
wow.
I love those or like ginger.
What?
What? What?
Well, either that or
Wow.
you have an officer call out. They're like, "Oh, I'll be stopping, giving a tag. It'll be on a red blah blah blah," and you go and run the tag, and it's something completely different color. So you just confirm with them to make sure the
Right.
tag. Oh yeah, that's right, County. It is that. Okay, thank you. Like, are you colorblind?
Right. What? Yeah. And I have asked that. I have had that happen, and I've actually had one come back and say, "Sorry, I'm colorblind."
Yeah. It's like you just said you're out with a red, and it's coming back yellow.
Right. I'm like, okay, well, touche. That's fine.
Like, oh yeah, you're right. It is yellow. Like,
Right.
all right.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
If it was maroon or something, I'd get. But when you're talking yellow compared to like black, you need to go to a doctor. I'll never forget. There was this one retired sergeant back in I call my dad days, because these are like old schoolers that aren't there anymore. This one guy would talk like this on radio. Okay.
We had one of those too.
And I mean, this guy, he should have a greatest hits for radio transmission. Like, anyway, so there was one time he gave me a tag. He's like, blah, 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 zebra, blah, blah, blah. So when I recite the tag back to him, I say Zulu. He comes back and says, Z County, zebra, zebra. So I come back and I say, Z zebra and Z Zulu, same thing. Okay. That's how it was.
God.
Oh, man.
Oh
Yeah.
my God.
I'm sure you have them officers where, like, when they're done, you could just have hours on greatest hits of the things
Oh,
they
yeah.
say.
Oh, yeah.
You know what's bad is when you think you hear something and then you go to play it back, but it's crystal clear
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
on a
yeah.
recorder.
It's like your brain just
Yeah.
did something. Right.
Yeah. It's kind of like you play it back, you're like, that's not what I heard. You're like, well, that's what was recorded. Yeah, well, play the recorder back in my brain. You know, like, yeah.
Right. That is not what came through.
Or
Yeah.
you can't all of a sudden remember the phonetic alphabet and then you're like, C. Fuck, y'all, what is C? What is C?
It
Like,
happens. I mean,
Right.
I
And
mean,
if you're like me, the only thing coming to mind is not a word you want to say out loud.
yeah,
So
definitely.
I'm like, yeah.
you're
Oh
like,
my God.
see, cock-a-doodle-doo.
Right. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, I swear
Oh,
Friday
jeez.
night when I go back, if I suddenly have a brain fart on the phonetic alphabet and think about this, I'm blaming y'all.
That's
Just-
right. That's
yeah.
right.
And
Say
that
something you
would be
shouldn't say over
great.
the radio.
Oh, man, yeah.
Well, before we let you go, we'll do our little rapid fire.
You prefer texting or talking?
Texting.
Early bird or night owl?
Night owl.
If you were a superhero, would you prefer invisibility or super strength?
Invisibility.
That's the dispatcher answer,
Yep,
man.
it is.
One thing you can't live without.
My children.
One book or piece of literature you think everyone should read or listen to. Doesn't have to be public safety related.
The Killer Angels by Jeff Shara.
What is the message you want to spread to the world?
Enough with the negativity. I know it'll never happen, but even when bad things happen, just try to stay positive. Remember that everyone has their own rock bottom. May be worse than yours, may not be as worse as yours, but it's all how you dig yourself out and you learn from it.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Very good advice. Now, guys, you can also check out old Dougie Boy here. He was an episode of Ghost. What was it? Ghost Nation
Ghost Nation,
Ghost
yep.
Nation,
on the
yeah.
Travel Channel. What episode and date was that? So folks can look that because that was creepy as hell.
Yeah, it was on the Travel Channel, Ghost Nation, because in addition to dispatching, I've also been in the ghost hunting field almost pretty much the same amount of time as I've dispatched. And I was on Travel Channel's Ghost Nation. It was back in 2020. It was season 1, episode 3, The Novelist's Nightmare.
Yep, check it out. It's awesome.
So, yeah. So.
And of course, also check out his current podcast that he's got going on, like we said, with his siblings, Sibling Things podcast. You can listen to them on all the platforms, correct?
Yes, Apple Music, Spotify, all that. I like
They
to say,
even live stream. They're
Yeah.
fancy.
Yeah, they're fancy guys.
Yep. When you find us, if you on Facebook, when we do stream, we stream live on Facebook, YouTube, and something called Twitch that I don't even know. But we do.
Cool.
Yeah, definitely good times. Make sure you listen to them, follow, subscribe, do all that great stuff. Great folks. And we do appreciate your time again.
Thank you so much. You guys are great. Like I said, I definitely glad that we could do this. We could talk for hours.
We could,
spend all 12
indeed.
hours going on and on.
And we'll keep in touch for sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
All right, guys.
All right.
Till next time.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.